Hey, Reset listeners, I've got something super special for you. So, it's been a year of us all being stuck inside, and I think it is not a better time to reset, which is why I am so excited to announce a partnership with the Miraval Berkshires, which is a one-of-a-kind spa in Lenox, Massachusetts. Basically, we're launching the Reset Weekend. April 30th to May 2nd, we're creating an amazing weekend where you can go, relax, get spa treatments, hike, sit by the pool, get every massage you could ever dream of in a one-of-a-kind, amazing space. I had the honor of going to this space back last summer, and it fueled my soul. And I think once you spend a weekend at Miraval, you're going to love it. So I'd love for you to join me on April 30th to May the 2nd for a Reset Weekend. Details are in the show notes, and come on through and check out Miraval Berkshires. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Reset Podcast. I'm your host, Laura Munoz, CEO of the cultural communications agency, D-Flash. Each episode, I bring on a different business leader who's doing some game-changing work. And this episode, I am so excited to have Myoshia Boykin-Anderson, who's the president and owner of AndTech Solutions and founder of Beyond Belief. She has a remarkable career story and has lots of great wisdom to share. It's going to be a great conversation. Take a listen. Hey, how are you?
I am good today, Laura. How are you?
Good. It is a lovely Thursday. So we always dive right on in, and I'm so excited to hear what your answer is going to be for this one. So Myoshia, what was your first job?
My first job actually was when I was 14 years old, and it was at Astroworld, which was a Six Flags theme park here in Houston, Texas.
Okay, so what were you doing that young working at a theme park?
So, and actually, I think probably, Laura, I think I was probably, I hate to say this, but I think I was probably 13 and I fudged my birth certificate. Anyway.
This is a common theme amongst everyone who comes on the podcast. Like everyone's slightly working remotely illegally at the ages of like 11, 12, 9, 3 years old. So it's all good.
Exactly. And for me, part of that was because, so I grew up in the inner city of Houston, in an area called Third Ward, which is, for all intents and purposes, the hood. And, when I was growing up, I am one of four, and my mother was on drugs when I was growing up. So I worked that young because I had responsibilities to try to care for myself and my siblings. So it was, working for me started very early, and I've been working ever since, actually. But that's how my story started in the streets of Third Ward. We call it Third Ward, Texas. It's just an area of Houston. And yeah, that's how my story got started.
Wow. All right. So now I want to hear the story. So how do we get from working at the amusement park to today with multiple companies? What's that journey been like?
Well, I'll tell you, it's been a journey, of course. So back to the beginning. So I started working at Astroworld and just finding any other, little job that I could to get money to help my family and I, right? So in high school, I started taking a computer class, and it literally changed my life. I fell in love with computers. And actually, they say hindsight is 2020. I really believe that computer class had such an impact on me because it allowed me to think analytically and solve problems. And because I was living a life in circumstances that I could not control, that I could not solve, these life issues that were so much bigger than me. I think that's why I loved technology so much, because it allowed me to literally solve problems myself. Like I had the power to solve problems. So I immediately fell in love with computers. I actually joined the co-op program at my high school, which is Jack Yates Senior High School. I joined the co-op program, so I started going to school half a day and working in corporate America half a day. And at the very young age, yeah, it was so exciting. At the very young age, I remember going into these offices, and there were like several high school students because this program was across the whole city, and all of these organizations partnered with HISD, which was my school district here in Houston. So there were a lot of high school students in the co-op program. So I was working at a company called American General, which is now Balic Insurance Company, like AIG. I think it's called AIG today. But I was working at American General, and I remember like I was a really young kid, and I would be in my cubicle, and the grown-ups, right, the real employees there, they would ask across the room, hey, Sheila, do you know how to do this? And I would sit back, I would crunch down in my cubicle, I would figure it out on the computer, and then I would come up and say, Miss Johnson, I know how to do it. And that's literally how my career in technology started. I loved it so much. I loved solving problems. So I entered the workforce, and, after graduating from high school, and when I graduated from high school, my grades were great. I almost aced the SAT. I had engineering scholarships because back then I wanted to be an engineer because I loved science and technology and math. I was really a STEM girl even before STEM became, big and popular. So I had these scholarships to these colleges of engineering, but I didn't go to college because I couldn't fathom leaving my family, right? Leaving my brothers and sister to go off, somewhere and live this life that was, away and apart from them. So I never went to college. So I immediately entered the workforce and just started working and really just honing my technical skills. I would teach myself everything that I could about technology and what the latest, tech stacks were, and, just all of this stuff. And
so wait, just 1 second. So you have all these scholarships. Because I'm like, wait a second. She needs further explanation. So you get all these scholarships, you ace the SATs, and to go to college basically wherever you want. But then you make the decision that college can't, family trumps college right at this moment. And so you make the decision to go out into the workforce, and then you get the job.
Exactly. My family was so much, I couldn't, because and by this time my mama was slowly coming out of her addiction, and and all of that. But I felt like my responsibility was here. Like my responsibility was to my family and my siblings, because who else was going to take care of them? So that was the decision I made at that point. And shortly thereafter, so I'm working, I get pregnant at a young age, and I have my daughter, and I'm a single parent, and, all of this. But it was all driving me, it was all writing the story. I was literally rewriting the story, because while I didn't necessarily at that time know what I really wanted out of life, I knew what I didn't want. I knew what I didn't want my daughter to have to experience. So it was really just, me flying by the seat of my pants, trying to do the best that I can to, take care of this now child that I have by myself. And it was really just putting one foot in front of the other, literally every day, trying to make a better life for the two of us and for my siblings, who I was still very much, I still felt like I was very much responsible, for them. So I was taking care of them and taking care of what was now my new family, my daughter and I, at the same time.
Wow. And so then this sounds like a movie. And then what happened?
So I later on in 1994, I moved to DC because during my mother's addiction, she and my dad got divorced. He moved back to Virginia, which was his home place. He moved back to Virginia. He hooked up with his with his high school sweetheart. They get married, and now they're living this amazing life in the DC, Maryland area. So in 1994, I moved to DC in Maryland to be with my dad and my mom, my stepmom, who is just absolutely amazing in her own right. But I moved there, and literally, I like to say that the 3 years I was there was really the pivotal years of my life. I grew, the woman that I am today was developed during those 3 years. And I landed a job while I was there, and I literally thought it was like my dream job. It was, working for this company who was a technology integrator for law firms, and they were doing big, big business in that area. And I was super excited about it. This was at the beginning of 97. And at that point, my mom and dad had just been offered an opportunity in Germany. So they were getting ready to move overseas. And I was like, well, listen, the only reason I'm here is because of you guys. So if y'all move, I need to try to get back to Houston. And Laura, I kid you not, the next day I go into my job and they announced that they have just bought out a company in Houston and they needed someone to go and run the office in Houston.
So when I predicted this was a movie, I was not wrong.
It was, I was like, you have got,
look at God.
Look at God. And listen, I was like, I often tell people, listen, God loved me before I ever knew who he was. Before I ever loved him, he loved me. And so much of my story is so evident. It's so evident. So now I am paid to move back to Houston. While I was the day before, I was trying to figure out how I was gonna move my daughter and I and this stuff that I had accumulated over the past 3 years, figure out how I was gonna move it all back to Houston. And the provision was waiting on me the next day. So they paid for me to move back to Houston. I was running the office, and remember, this was what I thought my dream job. So I'm in the office one day, and my manager, who actually worked out of the Dallas office, came in one morning, and she dropped the bombshell that they had decided to close the Houston office.
After everything you've been through.
After everything. And when I tell you, it literally felt like somebody was punching me in my stomach, like literally, because while it was my dream job and I was making a pretty penny, because I got to keep my, East Coast, DC salary moving back to, Houston, and the cost of living is so much less than it is in Maryland, DC, and, all of that. So, and I got to keep my salary at that point. I'll never forget, I was making $48,000 a year. And that was amazing for a 25-year-old.
Right.
So I'm working my job. She comes in, she drops this bombshell. And I literally had to go to the ladies' room. I literally bawled my eyes out. Like I cried so hard, mascara running down face. It was an ugly cry. Like it was the belly cry, the big ugly cry. And I just remember hearing God's whisper, girl, get off that floor. Because I was on the bathroom floor. Let me just say it. I was on the bathroom floor. And I just heard God say, girl, get off that floor. So I got up, put some cold water on my face, got myself together. And I often joke that she had the nerve to ask me to help her clean the office, because not only did she say we were closing the office, she said, we're closing it today. Today. So wow. Here I am, single parent, good job, but no savings, living paycheck to paycheck, because I was so living outside of my means. But and then to get dealt this. And I'll tell you, Laura, that's when the entrepreneurial bug was, planted, because I decided that day after, I went through all of my anguish and fear of what's about to happen and all of this stuff. After I went through all of that, I determined that day that nobody would ever have the power to decide where my next dollar was coming from. And so I often tell people my journey towards entrepreneurship was involuntary. Like, I didn't choose it.
You have a choice. It chose you. Yeah.
It chose me. Right. So my immediate, course of action was to go find another job because I, had responsibilities. But I knew that day that I was going to start my own business. And it took me 9 months. I went out, I found me another job, and I started working this job that I didn't particularly care for. But I started the job, and every day I was thinking of my master plan, right? I remember, Rakim used to say, thinking of a master plan, right? But I was thinking of my master plan. And 9 months later, I started my very first company. And at that time, it was Boykin Business Solutions. It was a company that specialized in technical training and delivery for law firms. So I started that company in 1998 at 26 years old. And I grew that company to multiple six figures until 2000, end of 2007. I closed the company in 2008, kind of took a step back, looked at all the lessons learned, and then I launched AndTech Solutions in January of 2009. And now, 12 years later, we are a multi-million-dollar technology consulting, strategy, and training company.
Yeah, this is a movie. That's so incredible. I mean, there's so many nuggets. I don't even know where to start. Okay, here's one. How did you know when you needed to close one company and then start another one?
So what I realized, even though my business was quite successful at that time, business started drying up for me in, roughly around, 2006, 2007, those 2 years. Even though I was growing in revenue, it was still very difficult for me. I was doing it all myself. I was killing myself, right? And it was, those were pivotal years in my daughter's life, and she was playing basketball, and because I wanted so much more for her, I was the basketball mom that didn't miss anything. And it was just, I was literally killing myself. And I knew that entrepreneurship was always going to be the life for me, because it was a sweet position for me to be in. I loved being an entrepreneur, but what I didn't love was the fact that I felt like I couldn't enjoy it as much as I wanted to. So I said, you know what, I'm just going to close this business. And I spent a whole year. And in that year, I met my husband, and he was a great support, system in encouraging me, to start the new business. And that was always my desire. So he partnered with me on, just from the support level to make it happen. And yeah, I stepped back out there, but I literally allowed myself the time to do what I had to do internally and externally to make sure that the next business was going to be bigger and better than before.
Awesome. And it's interesting. Like, I think oftentimes as entrepreneurs, we get to that crossroads where we know, like, this is killing me. And you have to be able to be like, either I need to change what I'm doing or do something else, because this isn't the way. And I think for a long time we had the, relentless hustle, can't stop, won't stop, I'll sleep and I'm dead kind of belief. That's what entrepreneurship was, like the grind everyone was talking about. And I have to say, in the last few years, there's definitely been a shift to more like, how how do I find the balance? I mean, I find it with myself. You know, when I look back now on like the insane schedule I was running when I first started my business 10 years ago to now what I do, whereby like we're busier than ever, we're doing really well. And it's not that I'm doing less work, but I'm definitely doing smarter work. And I
Yes.
think you get to that point where you have to make the shift. And like, but you're so right about prioritizing you, like finding the right guy for you, like putting that. And isn't it interesting once you sort of put that out into the universe, that stuff just starts coming your way?
Oh my goodness. So let me tell you, Laura. So I was true story. So listen, I'm dating this guy in 2007, right? And he was the craziest thing ever. Bless his heart. And look, I'm from Texas, and when we say bless his heart, that is not pretty. But
You know what that
anyway,
means.
yeah, bless his heart. But anyway, dating this guy, and it's December, and I love to go to watch night service on New Year's Eve, like bring the New Year in, at church, right? So the plan was he and I would go to church. He would go to church with me first, and then we would go to his friend's New Year's Eve party, right? So the day comes, he decides he's not going to go to church with me. So I went to church that night, and I remember having a conversation with God, and I was like, okay, I quit. I quit. I quit trying to, I quit. I'm not going to try to do it myself. I'm going to totally rely on you. I'm going to leave all of this foolishness in 2007. And in 2008, I'm just going to focus on me, and I'm going to let you bring me my Boaz, right? That was my like for real conversation.
Your Boaz. I love it.
Husband on January 11th, like literally 10 days later. 10 days
Wow.
later, I met my husband. So yes, I'm a true believer now. And I was never intentional about it before, but I truly believe that our words have power, right? And I literally put it out there, and I'm telling you, I met my husband 10 days later, and I was just sitting at the bar in Chili's with a t-shirt
In
and a baseball
Chili's?
hat on. In Chili's, I met my husband at the bar at Chili's. Yes.
See, you were giving hope for all of us out there who are like, yeah, it's funny. I oftentimes think of like the times I have like dressed up and been out on the town and who I've
Mm-hmm.
met versus I am minding my own damn business at Starbucks and who I've
Exactly.
met there. Like I just came in here to get
Exactly.
like a coffee and then hi. So yeah, well also you never know what it is, but there is something really unique about the sort of idea of manifestation. Like when you sort of like take the step back and like, okay, what do you really want? And either you say that in prayer, you write that down, you do it as an affirmation, and you actually make it simple. Like you don't try and get too heavy with it. Cause I feel like for years I started doing like, um, the vision board, and I thought, oh, that's really cool. And then my vision board from last year got blown to hell, by March. So I was like, never doing that again. And
Mm-hmm.
then, but then, for New Year's Eve this year, I was like, you know what? I always do things in three. So I'm going to write down the three things I want for 2021. And of the three, I've already gotten one, which was the one I thought would be the hardest.
Mm-hmm.
So- and I think to myself, because like I made
Wow.
it simple, and I just sort of put it out there in a way that doesn't have to be hella complicated. And I think we oftentimes as entrepreneurs try and overcomplicate things when we don't need to.
We really don't. We really, really don't. That's why also, I started Beyond Belief, because, it's literally us getting to a point where we think about the life that we want to live, intentionally think about it, and we're able to get it. We're able to live a life that is beyond belief, literally beyond belief. And and see the thing, my desire for this new business and this new brand is that I am able to show up as the very best version of myself, to live out loud in front of those that are watching me to show what is possible, to show what can be, and not something that I've read in a book, but to actually be able to be a real life example of, I don't care how your story started, you have the power to write the next chapter, right? And I'm so passionate about that. And I think even more so now, after last year, I'll tell you, Laura, so I told you I grew up in Houston, I grew up in Third Ward. So I grew up with George Floyd. We literally went to the same elementary, all the way to high school.
Oh, wow.
All the way to high school. And what last year showed me, first of all, we as people, I mean, like, we've been dealing with injustice and all of that. We've been dealing with it, for what seems like to me forever, right? But
forever.
It forever. It hit so close to home last year. It hit so close to home. And I realized that I literally needed to show up, and I needed to show up in a big, big way to show people what is possible. When people tell you what you can't do, when you don't come from the best pedigree, when you haven't gone to the best schools, to show people what is possible. And you know what? It's not even about the money. The money is sweet. Being able to claim that I am a multimillionaire, that's sweet. It's really sweet. But it's not, abundance and this beyond belief life that I'm talking about, it is so much bigger than the money, because it's everything. It's everything. It's being able to enjoy it. It's being able to say to my team that we're going to have to get this stuff done Monday through Thursday because I don't work on Fridays. Fridays are for me, right? So it takes work. And part of that beyond belief is literally believing is the first step, but what are you going to do beyond believing? Beyond belief means action. And knowing that it's not going to fall in your lap. You're going to have to, you're going to have to put some elbow grease in it, but guess what? You don't have to kill yourself. You don't have to kill yourself. So you can work hard and you can play hard and you can do all of that collectively.
You're so right. And I think, I think definitely last year was a huge reckoning for a lot of us in business, especially where it's like we were working so hard, but also what do we actually stand for? And how do we actually show up in this world? Are we doing what we should be doing to try and make a real difference and help other folks get to where we are? And so that's awesome to hear that you created this with Beyond Belief. Also that you don't work Fridays. Hashtag goals. I aspire to that level so desperately. I try. I mean, I tend to shut my phone off. I shut my day off around 2:00 on Fridays. But I would love to be able to be like, you know what? It's a 4-day work week for Laura, so shut up.
Yeah. And you know what? And part of that is really is really making sure that, as entrepreneurs, when you start elevating, you realize that it takes a team. Like you can't, it's not cute to have to wear all the hats. Like I used to think that was cute. I used to wear it with a badge of honor. I wear all the hats. I'm an entrepreneur. That is not cute. That is just, that's not me anymore. So being able to truly curate this amazing team of people that allows me to be off on Fridays, right? I can be off on Fridays because I know my business is still moving forward. We're still progressing. We're still being productive, even without me being there. My goal this year is to become irrelevant. When I first told that to my team, they were like, wait, what? But that's my goal, is to become irrelevant in my business. so that you don't need me to be there and stuff still
Exactly.
happens, right? So
Oh, that's
yeah,
the most important
yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah.
So tell me more about Beyond Belief. Is that a kind of coaching service? Is it, how do you sort of frame it?
So not coaching, and I'm very intentional about not calling it coaching. It's actually a mentorship because I think, so many times people hear coach, you have coaches out here, business coaches who've never had a business. You have coaches, coaches that are trying to teach you how to make $1 million. They've never made $1 million, right? So my program, Beyond Belief, is a mentorship because we are doing this together. As I mentor you to elevate, I am actually elevating as well, right alongside you. So it's actually a mentorship to help women, even those that are not yet entrepreneurs, but know that they, have this idea that's just been burning in their belly that they need to bring to fruition. A mentorship, it's a 12-month mentorship where we literally just walk alongside each other, and I share with the people in the mentorship what I'm doing to help continue to grow my business, and so that they could too start their businesses, grow their businesses. I often say I'll help you get to your first 6 figures, and then we're going to get to multiple six, and we're going to go to 7, and we're just going to keep growing. So it's actually a 12-month mentorship. And we'll have some in-person events and, all of that. I have big, big dreams for it. But that's where we're starting with the mentorship. And it's called the Beyond Belief Experience.
Awesome. We'll be putting all those details in the show notes. So, thinking about all the really amazing things you've been able to do over the years, what do you think you'd tell the 25-year-old you? So that was such a pivotal moment for you.
Oh my goodness. I would tell the 25-year-old version of me, girl, just do it. They're going to talk about you anyway. So just do it. I spent so much time, Laura, not making moves because of what other people were going to say, not making decisions because of what other people were going to say, not discontinuing habits because of what other people were going to say. So I would tell the 25-year-old me, girl, just do it. Yeah, you're different. You're different for a reason. I could just see her now. And I love her, bless her heart too. But that's what I would tell her. Yes.
Awesome. Because I think that's the thing, sometimes we get the expectation of what we're supposed to do versus what actually we can do. And that stops us from getting where we need to go. And it's such a problem. And I think you're right. It's just like, just go ahead, girl. That's going to be it. And so for you all,
Yes.
how did, interestingly enough, how did COVID affect your business?
It actually affected us. We didn't have to necessarily pivot. We had already positioned ourselves very good. I have learned over the years that while we did very well in 2019, like it was our best year, we almost did $3 million in revenue in just 2019 alone. But what I did not do was I didn't spend all of my money. So when 2020 happened, we started the year in a very good position from a cash perspective. So when the pandemic initially hit, even before the PPP was announced and all of that, I assured my team that, y'all, stuff is about to happen. People are going to have a lot of stresses in their life. Your job is not going to be one of your stresses. I will continue to pay everybody. Nobody will lose their jobs. Nobody's hours will be cut. So, but the only way I was able to make that promise to my team was because I made smart business decisions. So while COVID impacted us, definitely, our revenue, decreased significantly in 2020. But because of past good habits and good decisions, it didn't kill us, right? It didn't make us lay down. We were able to fight our way through it and and just come out on the other side, shining. We're shining right now, and we'll continue to shine, and we'll continue to make great money decisions and business decisions.
Awesome. And, I think that's a thing. I think the lesson for us all as entrepreneurs is plan, 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 and plan some more. Because you never know when there will be a global pandemic, which will shut down your entire industry like it did with mine. But, take your time, figure it out, and you find a way. Like, that's what makes people entrepreneurs versus entrepreneurs. So obviously, you do a lot. You do a lot for everyone. So what do you do for self-care?
So one thing I do, for self-care is I allow myself to not do anything. Like I literally allow myself to do nothing. So there are some Fridays where I have nothing on my calendar, and I'm perfectly fine with that. I do love to, have spa days and, all of that. I love to cook. I also love going out on my boat. I just moved, my husband and I bought property on the water, a little bit outside of Houston on Lake Livingston, but we bought property, we built this amazing home, and we bought a boat. And I'm from the city, so this is all new to me. So yeah, yeah, it's all new to me. Like I literally, I live in the country. I just live in the country. That's what I call it. But I love being on the water. I love going out on the boat. And sometimes, so, we walk out the back and we have this boat lift. So sometimes I don't even take the boat out. I just lower the boat. So it's still inside the lift, but I lower the boat into the water and I just let the water rock me. And I can sit out there and I can read a book or I can drink a glass of wine, and I'm not going anywhere. I'm just rocking, swaying in the water, and the boat's not going anywhere. But I allow myself to do all of that, and I have no prescriptions for self-care other than you need to be intentional about earmarking that time. But the thing about self-care is that it shouldn't be overly planned or anything. Just allow yourself to do whatever it is in the moment, whatever it is. And that is so much my self-care regimen, is that sometimes it's no regimen at all.
That's the thing. I mean, I think we sometimes think, well, I have to make sure I take at least 45 minutes every single day at 5 o'clock for me. And for some folks that might work, but for some folks it might not be. And it could be that your self-care is, I'm going to have this really lovely chocolate right about now.
Yes.
and I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to enjoy every bite and then get back to work. But having that moment was what I need to do. Like, there doesn't need to be any
Yes.
rules about it. And as I said,
Yes.
Fridays off. How did you manage to finagle to get Fridays off going forward?
It was just being very strategic and very intentional about my time. Like, I have a girlfriend who wrote a book called The Joy of Missing Out, and her name is Tonya Dalton. And Tonya said, productivity is not about doing more. It's doing what's most important. And that's what I got the idea of having Fridays off from Tonya. Like literally being able to do the most important things Monday through Thursday so that you can take Friday off. Now, if you're lollygagging Monday through Thursday, you can't expect to be off on Friday. But if you are very intentional about your time and how you spend your time and how you don't let other people's emergencies become distractions for you, because people will allow you to do what you allow them to do, right? So, or people will do what you allow them to do. So I am very intentional about how I spend my Monday through Thursdays so that I can have my Fridays. And eventually, so I'm teaching my team these philosophies now as well, because eventually everybody will be off on Fridays. And that's because all of us will be doing the most important work Monday through Thursday. So yeah,
that's great, and a great plan.
Yes, that's where we're going now. Of course, when I say that, it's probably going to be, because I also have to be realistic, right? So when I say we're all going to be off on Fridays, it's really that we're all going to have a 4-day work week. So part of my staff will be off on Fridays, part of them will be off on Mondays. But the idea is that everybody gets a 3-day weekend.
That's awesome. And the dream. I'm like, wait, how am I? I'm thinking to myself, how could I do that? Okay, let me look, see. I might be able to make that happen. Awesome. So, last question for you. Do you have a give and or an ask of the audience?
Okay, let me do my give first, because I truly believe in giving before asking. So my give is that each person listening, no matter how your yesterday looked, and yesterday could literally be 24 hours a day, 24 hours ago, 24 days ago, 24 years ago, right? No matter how your yesterday looked, yesterday is no more. Definitely, take this time today. And if there's anything that you need to change it today, and know that it's okay. Yesterday is gone. We can't do anything about yesterday. But what we can do is make ourselves a better version of ourselves today, so that we can have a better tomorrow. So that's my give. Another give, people often ask, okay, well, what books are you reading? Or, and all of that stuff. The book that I just talked about, The Joy of Missing Out, I really like that book. And right now I'm reading this book called Faith and Fire. It's actually a Bible study by Priscilla Schreier, but that's another give. I think it's absolutely amazing for us to read material that's going to help us be a better version of ourselves. And that's such a theme across my life, being a better version of myself. How can I be a better version of myself? So those are a couple of my gives.
Great.
And my ask is, with Beyond Belief being so new, and and all of that, I would just like to ask folks to visit us online, the beyondbeliefexperience.com. And I think that's it. I'm so excited about that piece of my business. Of course, my technology solutions are doing great right now. And for those that find themselves wanting to work smarter and not harder and need some custom solutions, we're definitely there for that. But yeah, Beyond Belief is my biggest ask right now, is to create visibility and awareness around that, because it's definitely needed. It's definitely needed.
Awesome. We can totally do that. We'll put all the details in the show notes for folks to check out Beyond Belief, check you out, check out those awesome books. Thank you so much for being on the show. I mean, my goodness, your story is phenomenal. And when are you starting the book and the movie?
I know, right? Look, and I've even thought about who I would get to play the role of Myoshia. Oh my goodness.
And who do you have in mind? Put it out there in the universe.
Course, I know, right? Of course, Kerry Washington, like definitely Kerry Washington, and maybe to play my husband Carlton, who's this crazy Jamaican. Like, I'm married to this amazing Jamaican guy, whom I just love dearly. I think to get to play him, even though my husband is is this, rich, dark chocolate, guy, the person that would have to play him in the movie, just because he's like my thing right now, is the Duke from Bridgerton. Oh my God.
So essentially, you're asking you're looking for Ray J. Jean and Kerry Washington to play you guys in the movie. Oh, yeah, okay,
yeah,
sure,
yeah, exactly, yeah, exactly.
Shoot
so we're
going to be
working on.
Shoot big.
That's right. Shoot big or go home. Like, right? That's exactly
Exactly.
it. Yes.
That's amazing. Hey, listen, if you don't say it, it doesn't happen. So why
That's right.
not?
That's right. That's
Um,
right. That's right. And I look, I've proven that more than once. So I'm definitely putting it out there.
that's what I'm saying. Like you have a track record of success out here. So I don't look. I wouldn't bet against you. That's what I'm saying. So. Oh my gosh, you have been such a delight to have on the show. Such an inspiring story. It's so, it's always awesome to hear from, Black women in tech who are doing the damn thing and making it happen, but then
Yes.
also
Yes.
lifting as they climb. Because I think, what a Black woman in tech is supposed to look like, there is no cookie cutter image. And I think, you're living proof that like you can build and you can build with others and you can build a life that works well and great for you. And that's the story we want to share with folks because we don't see that enough. And I was super glad to get you on the show because I wanted you to share that story.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's been a pleasure, Laura. Like, it's literally been my pleasure.
Awesome. And that is our show.